This Casual Friday is brought to you by Warby Parker.
I'm kind of surprised you had pants in the Nintendo controller dream. That's the shocking part.
Well, I never looked down, except at the controller. So who knows?
So, I don't know if you guys know, but in a few hours, the Titanfall beta ends forever.
Forever?
The beta does, yeah.
The beta.
The beta is wrapping up.
Man.
I keep on thinking they might try to squeeze it out for one more day.
I'd be down.
Just as a kind of...
Even last night they were having some server problems, so...
Yeah, that's what betas are for.
I guess,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Vince said that when he opened up the beta to everyone, they wanted to try to get as many people on as possible to stress test it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you know what? Probably one of the best ways to see if they can push it out for another day is to have problems.
Yeah.
So they can resolve the problem. So
Yeah.
go problems.
I don't know if it takes a day to resolve problems like that, but...
So
I mean, I had surprisingly few issues.
Actually,
I
so
none.
the internet kind of knows what you think of Titanfall, but you just played it for the first time in the beta, right?
Freaking loved Titan.
Yeah?
And I know, something amazing happened this weekend. I fell in love with a multiplayer shooter. I never thought this day would come.
that was my take as well. I've always admired multiplayer shooters,
Yeah.
but never loved one.
Yeah.
No, I could see myself playing this a lot when it comes out.
Yeah.
Me
Especially
too.
since there's so much more apparently to the game. Like the beta didn't have any of the monsters and stuff in it.
Any of the
Which I only just
campaign.
found out about. And
Yeah.
You monsters improve everything except in Peter Jackson's King Kong. That's
true.
one instance I'm not worried about that having. This isn't Peter Jackson's Titanfall.
So there was that NeoGAF leak though that said that there's like 15 or 16 stages.
Yeah.
in it, which, if you think about it, makes sense because what they've been saying is we don't want to waste resources on a single player campaign that's 4 hours and you never touch it again. We want to put all those resources into making a fleshed out multiplayer thing. So I think in a way, it kind of makes a lot of sense for a game that's multiplayer only to ship with a ton of maps like that. Like that's exciting to me. as
Well,
someone
I
who-
mean,
Yeah.
that sounds like a reasonable trade-off. I mean, I have to say, a lot of my colleagues, the one point of concern that always gets expressed is, without a single-player campaign, it's going to feel like a full package. It's going to be interesting. I think my only thought is there's an interesting world there that you just only kind of get a touch of. Like you see it like with the advertisements for the companies that are providing the Titans.
Oh, yeah,
and all
in-game,
that,
yeah.
and that how much can they flesh that out? That's kind of where a single-player game can kind of create the world. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they can't do that in the multiplayer. But yeah, I'd rather have just more good multiplayer.
Yeah,
I think so, too.
there are tons of people who play Call of Duty and never touch the single player campaigns.
Well,
ever.
as someone who reviewed Battlefield 4, I would have loved to have not played that single player campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like I've played a lot of games in the past couple years that I wish it's the reverse, where I wish they didn't have a multiplayer. I think Tomb Raider might have been a better game if there was no multiplayer in it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I think there's
absolutely.
something to be said for focus. You know?
Yeah, Tomb Raider is a weird case because the multiplayer was developed from by a different company than
Right.
the single player. But like, I understand what you're saying. Like allocation of resources, it does seem like why bother putting time and effort into something that only a handful of people are going to play.
It's also, it's not as big a team as people would think. This isn't hundreds of people.
Who, Respawn?
Yeah,
It's like less than 100,
It's
right?
like less than 100.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very wise thing. Sort of in light of many things that have happened recently, such as the stuff at Irrational, that to sort of know from the outset what can be accomplished
Yeah.
and go for that is going to be a far more effective development process than to shoot
Yeah.
for the moon and then have to realize, that
Right.
great idea cannot be implemented.
Being
Yeah.
aware of the scope that you're capable of seems incredibly important.
Yeah.
to me.
Okay.
What was the last multiplayer shooter, by the way, that you guys enjoyed? Because for me, I think it might have been Call of Duty 4. Like, I have really fond memories of the Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare beta. Because it's so weird to think about, by the way, that before that point, Call of Duty meant World War II, up until that beta came out. But like that was the last time I really got into a competitive shooter, and then I just kind of completely fell off forever until now.
Yeah. I mean, predominantly multiplayer shooters. I've never been into like Call of Duty or Battlefield, but I have enjoyed multiplayer components of single player games like Far Cry 3 and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I really liked Last of Us.
Huh.
It did that thing where I liked the tighter, smaller, tenser quality of it, rather than like, hey, let's just try to just rack up as many points with shooting.
Yeah.
There was just something like, it was like the most hateful version of bum fighting video games. It's just like desperate people in desperate situations being really horrible to get limited resources.
How appropriate for
Yes.
The Last of Us too. You know?
Yeah, I think the most successful thing that Titanfall did is just like make itself accessible.
Yep.
You know, like
Yeah, but
I've played
how?
so many games like that. Okay, well, for one, it has a really great tutorial
Yes.
that literally starts from like this is how
Yep.
you run.
Yeah.
Some of that is redundant, sure, but like for beginners, especially people who aren't familiar with shooters,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be huge. Also, a lot of their weapons seem like the smart pistol.
The smart
that
pistol is
auto
really
locks.
fascinating
A
to
lot
me.
of people were complaining about that. The type of people
Those
who
people
are
probably haven't played it, though.
hardcore. Well, they played it and they were like, "Oh, this is too casual." That's the number one complaint I've heard with this game is that it's not meant for like hardcore
I mean,
first-person
it's
shooter
totally
players.
not. It's not a competitive, perfectly symmetrical competitive shooter in that sense, but like that's not what I want necessarily. I think Titanfall feels to me like it's built, and this sounds a little cynical, but it feels to me like it's built around you never feeling a bad feeling, never feeling like you lost, right? So like
Yeah.
you spend 3 minutes building up this Titan, you get it, it gets destroyed, but you get launched out, you escape, and you run away, you feel like you won. If you
Yeah.
lose the match, you have the opportunity to go to a dropship, get in, and get away. You feel
Yeah.
like you won. Like the whole game is built around making you feel good feelings.
Yeah.
It knows how to create game within the game.
Yeah.
And that, that even a poor player can have some sort of like personal narrative arc because
Yeah.
it all comes to getting in the Titan
Yeah.
and then having the ability to have a game-changing moment. But I just still can't get over that I could stay alive for as long as I did.
Yeah.
That's the complaint of just
Yeah.
about anybody out there.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know exactly what they're doing that's making that feasible.
Yeah.
But it's that sense that I feel that I'm improving every time I respawn
Yeah.
and I'm back in the game.
What's really crazy is that you do feel like you live a lot longer, but when I get in a firefight with another pilot, it still feels like Call of Duty. It still feels like it doesn't take that many shots for you to go down. And I think it's the size of the maps and the number of grunts and how the grunts aren't really a threat. Like
Yeah.
that to me, I think is why it feels like you're living so
So
much
did you
longer.
see the
Yeah.
Reddit thread about people who were having to confess that they got killed by a grunt?
I did it last night. I did it last night. There was like 4 of them. What I love about Titanfall, I think the most, and to me, what's amazing about Titanfall isn't the big scale stuff as much, right? Like the Titans
Yeah.
are so fun and so cool, but what I find myself most excited by is the fact that the parkour feels amazing and is super intuitive.
I love the
and I'm
parkour.
bouncing between walls and
Yeah.
like that is the stuff that I care
No,
about.
yeah.
The cloaking that I didn't know was in the game until I started the beta. There's just the stuff that excites me isn't the big, giant, epic missile launching
Yeah.
stuff. It's the small, thoughtful, perk-related and locomotion-related things
Yeah,
in the game.
I
No, you
completely
don't
agree.
feel like you're waiting for 3 minutes to get your Titan. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I stay alive more on foot than I do in a Titan.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because you're a target.
You know what else is crazy is that when you're in a Titan, you feel insanely powerful, and any pilot that runs up to you, you're like, I'm just going to shoot him, and he's going to explode into a red mist, or she's going
Yeah.
to explode into a red mist. But when you're in a pilot, you also feel like you have a fighting chance against a Titan. You
It's
never
true.
feel at a disadvantage. It's,
No, not at all, because you're small and you can hide.
and I think that speaks to what's impressing me the most about the game is it feels thoughtful. It feels
Yeah.
extremely thoughtful. It feels like I have to imagine they thought about, okay, what would be more fun? Showing you the Titan's health or not showing you the Titan's health? What would be more fun? If Titans can duck and crouch and sprint, or if they can't? Like, it feels like they've approached every possible
Well,
possibility.
I think the classic one is, there must have been some consideration at some point that, the Titans would be a point of contest to get in one.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or jacking. I mean, someone had to have suggested that you could
Of
jack
course,
another
yeah.
Titan.
Oh, yeah.
I think everyone realized that to be able to keep the flow of the game,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't want people just waiting around for things to spawn, as in like Battlefield 1945, and you wanted to allow someone to have time in their own Titan, and it is really unique to that player.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of changes where the contest goes and allows sort of activities to happen throughout the entire map, except
Yeah.
right there with each Titan.
There's a funny thing. This is kind of a stretch, but in the card game Magic the Gathering, there's a thing called land destruction where you could take away other players' resources. That used to be a big part of the game like 10 years ago, and Wizards of the Coast, the maker of it, has over the years gotten rid of land destruction because they realized it's not fun. Like, it's just not a fun gameplay
Yeah.
mechanic to have the thing that you've been building up taken away from you.
Yeah.
And I think the lack of Titan jacking and the fact that your Titan is your Titan, period,
Yeah.
Well,
speaks
people
to that.
can Titan jack you though.
Well,
Well,
they can't steal
take
your
Titan from you.
Oh,
they,
no,
they,
no, no.
they can destroy it.
They
And
can
that's-
destroy it.
Rodeo
You know
it.
what? And that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's a fair caution that, like, yeah, you're in something powerful, but what's happening behind you is going to be really
Yeah.
tough to get a
Having to
beat
get
on.
off your Titan and basically scratch your Titan's back for it to get the dude off and hop back in is like such a cool little moment.
Well, yeah, and also the idea that you can pop out of the Titan and it'll automate. That is that
I love
really
that too
surprised
because
me.
so often I would call a Titan and then immediately get killed afterwards.
It's great because it feels, there's something about it that feels cute. It's like the Iron Giant or something. Watching
know,
this big
right?
lumbering guy like come after you and be your bud. You're like buddies.
Well, it's like when you're playing Hardpoint, which is the domination game, most of those points you want to hold are where only a human can fit.
Yeah.
And so I want to protect that area while I'm taking it over.
Yeah.
You park your Titan outside, and he's like your buddy. I mean, I don't know if they have it or not, but I so now want to see like a personalization. If EA or Respawn actually wanted to go in a monetization route and I could buy things to design to put on my Titan, I never do this.
Oh God, I probably would
I
too.
really am having that Iron
gross.
Giant kind of moment. I kind of want to do that with it.
Just
Like
so,
put a cape on it or something.
just so we're not only saying glowing things about Titanfall, I think and it is a beta, I still see the seams in it sometimes. There are parts of the game where it looks like a video game again. It's cool because there are all these really huge cinematic moments, but there are parts like when you're watching from a third person, someone Titan jack someone else's Titan, and like the only part of their body that's moving is their arm that's shooting. That looks a little silly, or the way the dropship flies away. I think there's still seams there. It's, in a lot of ways, I think it's hitting the promise that we were given of like this incredible, very cinematic, almost single player-esque multiplayer thing. But there are also parts where it's like, oh yeah, I am playing the coolest version of Call of Duty, but still, like it's the.
I still don't compare it to Call of Duty. I think just because there's a spirit to it, that to me, I think it's like one of the reasons that you're like taking to it. It just doesn't have that heavy nauseousness that really became Call of Duty. I don't know if that was just the players or just. Like I've said repeatedly, I just kind of got tired of playing games where you're shooting other people in poor countries.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that this is like, why don't we just provide a fantasy like jetpacks and mechs?
It feels fantastic, and it's like an exciting. I mean, fantastic in the literal sense of it is like this huge. I mean, the way that I've been putting it is, I think Halo 4 did this weird thing where it combined Call of Duty and Halo in a way that didn't capture what I loved about either of those games. Like it was Halo, but without the arena multiplayer stuff and just perks for the sake of perks. This combines Call of Duty and Halo in a sense that captures what I love about both, which is like watching someone call in a Titan on someone else's Titan that is half dead and it gets destroyed.
That
like
happened
little
to me.
moments that remind me of throwing a plasma grenade across the map in Halo or something.
I think the biggest thing for me is just that it feels evenly matched, and part of that is also because it's a new game, so people haven't
we're
had
getting
a
in on the
chance.
ground floor.
Do
Exactly.
you think we're going to get to the point in Titanfall where it becomes like Call of Duty, where if you try to play it a year after it came out, you just get stomped?
I really, I think the biggest question I have, and I think that's my, I can't answer the question now.
Yeah.
That's my lingering question. I mean, you're going to get the experts that get in there, but maybe that's it. The people that say it's not hardcore enough, maybe they're just not going to gravitate towards the game, and all of us can have a lot of fun playing.
Fine.
Yay, Casual Friday.
Yeah.
Putting the casual.
More appropriate than we know.
Right. Putting the casual in Casual Friday.
Hey, you might have noticed that I have new glasses on today. I have resisted getting new glasses for almost a decade now because it is such a difficult and expensive process, but Warby Parker makes it so easy. Their glasses are inexpensive, fashionable, and the process is extremely simple. They offer prescription glasses, reading glasses, and sunglasses. All of their frames start at just $95, and that includes the lenses, as well as anti-reflective and anti-glare coating, which can cost hundreds of dollars at a normal retailer. Even better, you don't even have to leave the house to get them. With their free home try-on program, you can have 5 pairs of glasses shipped directly to your home. Then just try them on, decide which one you want, and send them back in a prepaid package. Order the ones you like, and they'll be sent to you within 10 business days. Best of all, for every pair of glasses you buy, Warby Parker will donate another pair to someone in need. To get started with your 5 free home try-on frames, just head over to warbyparker.com/casualfriday, and that URL will upgrade you to free 3-day shipping.